Am I the asshole for being critical of my acquaintance's music career, life in general? So my friend has a friend that I hang out with occasionally, and he's a decent guy, but he is always extremely depressed and has a negative view of everything. I also struggle with depression, so I do have empathy for him on that count. That said, I do think there are some clear things in his life that are causing his depression. The biggest one is he has a delusional view of himself, emo, as a talented musician, beatmaker. He thinks the beats he makes are just as good as one that sell commercially and he just needs a break. But he also doesn't have a job and leeches of his parents for money. He also is obsessed with having sex. One of those guys who says shit like, "Dude, we are put on this earth only to reproduce. If you aren't coming to the club every night looking to get laid, you are literally missing out on the purpose of life." I was raised Christian and disagree heavily with his attitude on this as well, which I try to articulate, and he just dismisses me as a religious fundamentalist. After having like an hour-long conversation while driving around in his car about the meaning of life and shit, where I was trying to get him to agree that he doesn't have all the answers about what makes a good life, he got pissed and turned the music up to the max in his car. I asked him to turn it down because it was giving me a headache. He was all pissy from the argument and was just like, "Nah bruh, I am not gonna turn it down." This is where the real AITA comes in. This situation was at a point now where I decided I was either gonna just shake my head at this idiot and move on, continuing to avoid him as much as possible, or say some shit. I decided to talk shit. I said, "Yeah, maybe listening to this shitty music is why you can't make good music. Taste is the beginning of talent." And he was like, "Yeah, it's so shitty bro, that's why people watch my YouTube videos and shit." And I said, "Yeah, how many of those beats have you sold?" 0. When was the last time you went to the club and weren't shamefully wasting your parents' money? His parents are wealthy so they can afford it, but I feel it is still unvirtuous to live off your parents as a grown adult. How about you get a fucking job and contribute something to society before you get yourself thinking you know anything about the world? You show up at my place unannounced with a keyboard trying to get me to make beats with you. I play piano and actually know music theory, so he thinks I could help him lol. Then get offended when I'm not in the mood. Can you not see how entitled and douchey that is? And #X200B. Now he's all mad. Didn't talk for the rest of the car ride. And our mutual friend thinks I have some valid point, but thinks I am an asshole for saying anything. My point is, how long can you basically lie to someone about how you feel about them before it just gets to a breaking point? I do feel bad for not having more empathy for him, and having such a cynical outlook on his life, but still don't think I was in the wrong here. You are the asshole, massively. I get you don't like the guy, but then it's on you to stay away from him. You hung out with him. You refused to take no for an answer when he made it clear he didn't want to talk music. You then decided to bless him with your holy wisdom from up high when he made it clear he didn't want to hear it. And then you get pissed that it went down badly and everyone thinks you're an asshole. You are an asshole. You are the asshole. Even if that's how you genuinely feel, there is literally no reason to shit on someone's passion and what they enjoy. If you think you two are too different, then just don't hang out with him, easy as that. But you are an asshole. You are the asshole. You had no business criticizing this person's life, music, or taste in music. What did it accomplish? You just made someone feel bad for no good reason. My point is, how long can you basically lie to someone about how you feel about them before it just gets to a breaking point? No one's asking you to lie. You said yourself, "This situation was at a point now where I decided I was either gonna just shake my head at this idiot and move on, continuing to avoid him as much as possible, or say some shit." You made the wrong call. You spend half of your post building up this holier-than-thou smear against the guy, probably in hopes to get us on your side, to get to the part where you say, "I decided to talk shit." You are the asshole right there. If you dislike the guy so much, don't spend time with him. You made it super personal. You are the asshole. Your contempt for him oozes out of every sentence. Don't worry about this guy. After the way you acted, I doubt he will bother with your jerk-ass again. You are the asshole. In that moment you chose to be an asshole and say things you knew would be hurtful. You are the asshole. Why do you care so much what this guy does with his life? I think you're jealous because his parents are rich and he can afford to chase his passion of making shitty music. Even if he is completely delusional about his talent, it isn't your job to force your view of life on him. You are the asshole. Am I the asshole for ignoring my ex-best friend in her crisis? I, 35 female, had been best friends with Meg, 36 female, for almost 18 years. We shared all our troubles, hyped each other up, resolved problems for each other, and were very much part of each other's families. Meg is a wonderful person, but there was one ongoing problem. She would ghost me whenever we had a disagreement. Not like taking a step back to take time for herself. I mean completely cutting me out of her life and blocking me everywhere for weeks, sometimes months with no contact. Eventually, when she missed me, she'd unblock and apologize and we'd talk about it and go back to normal. I have BPD, severe abandonment issues, and trauma related to ghosting from a previous abusive relationship. Ghosting by loved ones triggers me into a massive wreck. Temporary ghosting is even worse because I cannot heal and move on because I'm waiting for them to come back. I explained to Meg several times how her ghosting affected me, and she said she understood, but it never stopped. Last year, during the pandemic, Meg and I acknowledged that we were both severely overweight and we resolved to do something about it. We found a fitness program that looked sane and balanced and started. For whatever reason, the program worked better for me than her. I kept trying to motivate her but she was getting dejected. I noticed that she would get very quiet whenever I posted a recent selfie. I asked her about this and she admitted that me flaunting my success made her feel like more of a failure. I promised to not post any more selfies till she also achieved her desired fitness level. Around August last year, a mutual friend posted a photo of me to hype me up. Meg saw it and ghosted on me without saying a word. Then I learned that Meg has befriended a woman who she knows bullied me for most of my adult life. It felt worse than abandonment, it felt like a betrayal. So I decided to enforce some boundaries of my own and walk away from the friendship. Meg started texting me again after a few months of ghosting. She didn't address her disappearance, she just started talking as if nothing had happened. I ignored all messages and eventually she stopped trying. It's been 6 months of no contact since then, and while I do miss her a lot, I feel like I'm in a better place now because of enforcing my boundaries. A few days ago, I got a mail from Meg stating she's had a miscarriage and is in a terrible state mentally and physically and is very lonely. She'd like us to be friends again. I have not responded and I don't intend to. Taking her back might mean undoing months of work on my mental health. On the other hand, she's going through something terrible and I know from personal experience what a dark time this can be. I feel like a jerk to ignore someone whom I cared about who now needs my support. So please tell me, Reddit, am I the asshole? Not the asshole. This person is not your friend. That is not how friendship works. Personally, I'd explain why I was ghosting them, but that's up to you. You have to decide if being triggered regularly and being treated like shit is worth it for the good times. Not the asshole. This woman toyed with your emotions over and over while you waited in turmoil and devastation at being ghosted. She basically put you through an emotional hell. She did this numerous times. You've given her enough chances. For your own mental well-being and happiness, do not let her in your life again. Cut contact completely. She will put you through the pain of being ghosted again. She will never change. She doesn't deserve you as a friend. After the cruel way she treated you, she can deal with her issues by herself. You deserve better, so find friends who treat you with respect. Not the asshole. You don't owe friendship to someone who takes when it's convenient and ignores you the rest of the time. It is sad that she has some trouble in her life. But you don't need to take it on. You don't even need to reply. If you want to, you can, but don't get sucked into a back and forth. Not the asshole. It sounds like she's quite abusive and controlling towards you, punishing you for any missteps in a way she knows really hurts you. You're doing the right thing in my opinion. Not the asshole. Why does she feel lonely? Does she employ punitive silence, ghosting with everyone else she's in conflict with, or is it just you? Miscarriage is one of the hardest things someone could go through, but at this point she must have other venues of support that are not you. The thing about consistent ghosting is that the person who ghosts usually, at the time, has other social outlets or options to fill the space left by the person they've abandoned, other people to temporarily replace you with. You're under no obligation to support people who abuse you emotionally. Put your mental and emotional health first. She won't do it for you. Not the asshole. You don't owe her support when she can't support you and continually abandons your friendship. Good luck with your personal progress. Not the asshole. Meg can go talk to her new friend about the miscarriage. Meg knows you always welcome her back. Meg does not treat you right. Not the asshole at all. Please don't feel guilty. From what it sounds like, she was never actually a friend to you. Am I the asshole for having a blowout fight with my son over one of his friends? Edit. I also feel shitty about this because my son told us that the kid admitted to believing stupid stuff before, but having realized the error of his ways. He still denies ever saying Holocaust denial stuff, though. My son, 16, has very few friends. One of the few he has, is a kid that has said extremely questionable things in my home. Due to this, he isn't allowed to visit, and my husband and I don't want our son to even see this kid. The questionable things are about the Holocaust. For a background, we are a Jewish household, and my degree is in Holocaust and genocide studies. A few years ago, this kid, 18M, was 16M at the time, randomly brought up the Holocaust, and said that the numbers of the dead are grossly inflated, and that a maximum of 1 million Jews died. I was completely startled, and honestly, had no idea how to respond. I sort of shut down. Afterwards, when we had taken him home, we told our son that this friend was no longer welcome in our home. My son threw a fit, but said that he understood. Well, it's now 2 years later, and we really haven't mentioned this kid much since then. We heard him on the phone around 1 a.m. the other day, and told him yesterday that he needs to not be doing that, as it's insanely late, and he's enough that he wakes us up, along with his sister. It turns out that this kid is the one he's speaking to that late at night. My husband and I didn't comment on that, just reiterated that he can't be on the phone all hours of the night. Our son took that as us judging his friend and then started calling me a liar about what happened with this kid when he stayed over. He asked what hallucinogens I was on at the time, because he asked the kid if he'd said that, and he denied it. My son kept saying that I was a liar, a sadist, an exaggerator, and that he was with his friend the entire time that he was at our house, and never heard it. Told me that I needed to give him proof, and that if I couldn't, that proved that I was lying. I told him that the kid said this when he was alone with me, as he'd come downstairs earlier than my son did. I also asked him what type of proof could ever be provided here. Was I supposed to record him? I also told my son that this kid is lying to him, for reasons that I haven't got a clue about. My son then said that, because I have no proof, I'm obviously the liar, because his friend wouldn't do that. A screaming match then ensued. Afterwards, my husband told me that I had stopped to our son's level, and that I was being an asshole about it, by not taking the high road and just walking away from the situation. He did tell our son off later, but I still feel that while I wasn't necessarily in the right here, I also wasn't being an asshole by fighting with our son over this. So, Reddit, am I the asshole? Based off your other comment. You and your hubs have a bigger problem. He doesn't want to believe you and now he's deliberately framing you as a drug addict? Less the friend, I'd start worrying about how he is feeling and why he is doing these things. Why is it so important that you have to be a liar? Why is it so important to smear his parents? What is going through his head? These are the things to think about. Not the asshole. This doesn't belong here. You need to head on over to the relationship advice subreddits to ask how to fix this. But since you asked, not the asshole. Sorry, just looked at your older posts and I'd have dipped outside long ago. Your husband does nothing because he wants to be the good guy, and you're there trying to keep it all together. You're burning yourself to keep all them warm. Why though? I mean, you're the parent. All you really need to say is, this is my home, I'm the parent and I decide who comes and goes. If your friend decides to come over, the cops will be called. Woman shrugging, medium light skin tone. Not the asshole. This does not sound good, op. On one hand, you don't want to force him to do something, because he may take that as more excuse to get closer to this kid. On the other hand, you definitely don't want to encourage it. This has got be difficult. Obviously not the asshole. Anti-Semitism is on the rise, and Holocaust denial or minimization is a deliberate tactic to make anti-Semitic rhetoric seem more acceptable. This kid seems like he's at least flirted with some neo-Nazi propaganda. There's nothing you can do to stop your son hanging out with this kid, but you can sure as hell ban him from your house. The world is not safe for Jews right now. My grandmother, a survivor, recently told me, I guess my life began in these circumstances and it'll end in these circumstances as well, like it or not. That friend is making the world less safe for your son. The second any one of us, Jew or Gentile, lets this rhetoric slide, we become complicit. Not the asshole. This is regular teenager garbage. It's your home and your rules as long as your son resides there. Holocaust deniers need to be shut down obviously, but I hope this kid was just trying to provoke you and doesn't really believe what he said. His friend is lying to your son and gaslighting you. Racist Ms. never want to think that they're racist, and they will always deny any wrongdoing. They will never be accountable for the things they do. Not the asshole, but keep an eye on your son. He's being manipulated big time. Am I the asshole? Dill says that I'm taking over and marginalizing her as a mother. DH, 51M, and I, 51F, have birthdays a week apart. We planned a dream vacation for our joint 50th birthday. Our youngest son John, 26, and Dill Susie, 23, were expecting their first child's birth near the end of our holiday. They called a few months before the trip, asking me to come after the birth to help out. I reminded them about our trip and that I didn't have any more PTO available, but I could do 10 days as long as I worked remotely. They both agreed. Susie's mother would help out the first 2 weeks. Susie had baby Zoe the day before we got home. I didn't specifically ask what Susie wanted as help around the house. My MIL's help was just to hold and play with the baby, nothing else. I didn't want to be like her. After my workday ended at 4 p.m., I took care of their pets, cleaned litter boxes, did laundry, cleaned house, cooked, washed up. I always asked before I picked up baby and would change, feed, hold upon request. This year Mother's Day was also John's birthday. We visited John and Susie for the weekend. Bought a cake and a gift for son's b-day, flowers and a gift card for Dill for Mother's Day, and I cooked son's favorite dinner. Susie was with her mom, sans baby, for most of the day. Susie came home and was upset to see the cake, dinner. I asked why. Susie said, because you had bought him a birthday cake and made his favorite dinner. It's Mother's Day and it's my day to be celebrated and not his. Susie went on to tell me how offended she was that I had just barged in and taken over, when I came to help after Zoe was born. That she hadn't wanted me there, but John had insisted. That I was so fake, because I would only help out after John was home from work. He got home about the same time my workday ended. That I was trying to marginalize her as a mother by celebrating my son's birthday, who was born on Mother's Day by the way, my best gift ever, instead of celebrating her. That I had no idea how hard it was to be a young mom with everybody judging you. That I had no idea what postpartum depression was like or having to go back to work just 12 weeks after giving birth. I'm ex-military and got only 6 weeks maternity leave each time. Susie then yelled that she wouldn't stay in a house where she was disrespected and ignored, where her husband wouldn't take her side, and that she wasn't coming back until we were gone. Susie left and didn't come back that night. We left the next day, as scheduled. DH, John, other sons, 30, 30/28, and other Dill, 31, say I did nothing wrong, but several of my friends have said that I should have been more sensitive to Susie's space, needs, and emotions. That as a problem-solver personality, I tend to just jump in and do things. That having ASD, I tend to be oblivious to some interpersonal signals, which irritates people. I really don't want to be a JNMIL. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. The help you offered was doing all the hard stuff that would allow her to focus on the baby and not cleaning and caring for a house. You made it clear you could be there to help provided you worked remotely. When exactly did they anticipate you would be doing that work? She needs to grow up and understand that a holiday does not belong to a specific person. Your son was born on Mother's Day, that means you've spent every Mother's Day since his birth sharing a celebration with him. She knew his birthday before having kids. Was he supposed to never have a birthday celebration once she became a mom? Not the asshole. If this is out of character for her, I think it's worth exploring if this is a product of postpartum depression. Info. Your daughter mentioned PPD here. Is she alright? This might be a big reason, as she might still be not okay. You sound like a dream mother-in-law to me. I would have appreciated all your work personally. Not the asshole. I think your son's the a-hole here. Clearly you were well-intentioned. Clearly Susie's frustrations were simmering for a long time, unbeknownst to you. Who was the middleman not doing his job here, and most importantly, not respecting his wife's feelings? Your son. Talk to him. Call him out on his role in this. Your 23-year-old Dill was clearly not comfortable expressing her feelings to you, understandable, until she reached a breaking point. She shouldn't have done an outburst like that, or course. Sorry that happened. Your son should have been communicating her unease to you, his mother, a long time ago. Put it on your son to make things right. Not the asshole. Evan thought she exploded at you. I don't think you're the problem. It's probably the stress of having a baby and what sounds like not great communication with her husband. Unfortunately you were just the target at that moment. I don't agree with your friends that you could have been more sensitive to Susie's space, needs, and emotion. Since you were asked to come help after the baby was born and plans had been made for mothers, that would have been the time for Susie or your son to say something if they didn't want to make plans. But now that she exploded at you, you could give her some space. No one deserves to be spoken to like that, even if someone is stressed, hormonal, upset. Nah. Susie is obviously having a rough time. I wouldn't take it personally. Give her the space she wants, and hopefully when everyone catches up on sleep, you, Susie, and the baby can all spend some quality time together. This is a difficult one. Not the asshole, but I have to ask, would this have been her first Mother's Day? It's hard being a dill, as you know. She probably wants you to like her and at the same time probably thinks you judge her and you probably don't. It's most likely in her head and she puts all of the pressure on herself.